Between 1934 and 1941, the cycle of plays known as Genroku Chushingura was written by one of Kabuki's most important 20th century playwrights, Mayama Seika. Of the 10 complete plays in the cycle, at least 2 are recognized masterpieces and are frequently performed on their own. However, 6 plays are presented together at the Kabuki-za this month in recognition of the importance and quality of the cycle as a whole. While many may know the mid-18th century version of the story entitled Kanade-hon Chushingura, Mayama Seika's version differs considerably in its faithfulness to historical detail and in its drama based upon reasonable supposition, both elements said to be hallmarks of his style. Throughout Mayama's cycle, instead of focusing simply on one act of revenge and the personal sacrifices that this entails, he considers the moral code that supports such an action, set against the specific social and political environment of the day. The first play is Edojo no Ninjo, The Attack in Edo Castle. The date is the 14th of the 3rd month, 1701. The time, 11 a.m. Two attendants try to restrain a group of feudal lords. There has been an attack inside the castle and the lords demand to know who was involved. But the shogun is about to arrive and for their own sakes, the attendants beg them to maintain their decorum. It all happened so quickly, he can't be sure, but the one injured was Lord Kira. Who was the attacker? But the ceremony is due to take place soon. The attendants beg the lords to withdraw. The attacker was surely Lord Asano. He, Tozawa, demands to get through. He and Asano are friends. He will go through to see him. He was on duty in the room. It was Asano, was it not? He was compelled, or so it seemed. There is bloodshed. Lord Tozawa must not defile himself before an audience with the shogun. Indeed, it would be defilement and the utmost impropriety before the imperial envoys. There is nothing he can do. Attendants call for the lords to withdraw. All has settled down now, and the day's ceremonies surrounding the visit of envoys from the imperial court are soon to commence. Escaping the scene of the attack, the wounded Lord Kira Kosuke Nosuke is being helped away. The attacker, Lord Asano Takumi no Kami, is played by Nakamura Baigyoku. He understands his error. He will not be violent. He merely wishes to adjust his apparel and begs them to let go. Lord Asano must be quiet. He must not resist. But his court cap has fallen. He only wants to straighten his robes. He must release his sword. That he will not do. He promises not to run riot, but the sword is a samurai's last defense. Lord Asano injures the good name of his house. He must come quietly. He doesn't know who held him back, but it was an unreasonable thing to do. He is lord of a castle with 50,000 bushels, hardly one who would not know where he was. Let him go. He would straighten his robes and hear his sentence in the proper manner of a samurai. First, let go his sword. That he will not do. He is the caretaker, Kajikawa Yosobe, and he begs Lord Asano, for the sake of his house, for his own sake, to come quietly. Will they not show a samurai's compassion? This is beyond reason. He will hate them for this. Release his arms. Release him at once. The superintending officer, Okado Denpachiro, is played by Bando Yajuro. They have screened off an area in another room. Lord Asano is to go there and change his official robes for the usual attire. Only for the most formal occasions, or for an audience with the shogun himself, would feudal lords wear the large-sleeved and crested robes known as daimon. Was he the one who overpowered that insolent fellow today? Indeed, it was he, caretaker to her ladyship's apartments, Kajikawa Yosobe. There are certain gifts for the imperial envoys, and he was just meeting with Lord Kira, overseer of ceremonials, to discuss the time of their presentation when unexpectedly the attack occurred. But wait. An attack, he says. That is his personal opinion. Whether today's incident was a one-sided attack or a mutual argument is something for the superintending officer to determine. He apologizes. Please change the word attack to argument. Performing his duties today, he was standing some distance from the corner pillar of the corridor, speaking with Lord Kira and receiving his instructions. Suddenly he cried out, and in surprise Kajikawa looked up to see that Lord Asano had already struck Lord Kira once on the upper shoulder. Did he say nothing when he struck? Kajikawa heard him say, "Remember the recent grudge I bear." The recent grudge. Important words. Make sure to note them down. Shocked and frightened, Lord Kira unthinkingly screamed out, and upon turning towards Asano, he was instantly struck a second time. The sword grazed the top of his head, his court cap went flying, and blood streamed down from his brow. In his escape, Lord Kira ran for one of the nearby rooms. At that moment, Kajikawa grappled with Lord Asano and held him back. At the time, did Lord Kira reach for his sword? That he didn't see. He ran just as Asano struck the second blow. There was no time to reach for his own sword. Under attack by an enemy, yet he did not reach for his sword. Was it obvious he was restraining himself due to the law against drawing his blade? No, he merely seemed in a panic. He's sure? At any rate, Kajikawa knew that the imperial envoys were waiting close by, and that there must be blame for this defilement. Wrestling with Lord Asano, he managed to drag him along the corridor to this room. Yes, it was then. At that time, he was sweeping the corridor floor. Seeing what was happening, he threw down his broom and ran towards Lord Asano, grabbing onto the hand that held his sword. Is that the weapon there? Dressed now in the usual stiffened vest and wide trousers called kamishimo, Lord Asano Takumi no Kami Naganori returns and presents himself before Okado.
Asano Takumi no Kami Naganori, makari idemashita.
Today, without thought for place or circumstance, he fought with Lord Kira. What are they to make of this? He can say nothing to excuse himself. Towards His Excellency the Shogun, he bears not the slightest malice. He merely harbored resentment towards Kira. And forgetting all else, he attacked him. He meant to kill Lord Kira. His blade was too short by a mere inch or two. It is deeply regrettable. And the cause of this resentment? At this time, there is nothing more he can say. It is only a great pity that he failed to kill Kira. If it so pleases, abiding by the rule of law, he would like to receive his just punishment. He is to withdraw and to wait in the room they have prepared. A Western-style clock chimes the hour. It is now 4 p.m. on the same day. The next scene is set within the office of the senior minister and councillors. 4 superintendent officers, of whom Okado is one, present themselves on the left as the councillors Inagaki and Kato enter and take their seats. They have reported the findings of the 4 officials in detail to the senior minister and have now returned with his orders. But first, the physician Amano Ryojun was treating Lord Kira's wounds, but it was requested that the surgeon Kurisaki Doyu also examine the patient. What is his diagnosis? The councillor Kato is played by Ichimura Manjiro. The wounds were extremely slight. There is no fear of them proving fatal. Is that so? Lord Kira, paying due regard to the place in which he found himself, did not oppose his attacker, and his conduct was admirable. Having received treatment from Kurisaki Doyu as requested, he is now to rest well and recuperate. As for the inspectors, they may withdraw whenever they please. This he reports from the senior minister. Lord Asano Takumi no Kami, having forgotten completely where he was, did harbour a personal grudge against Lord Kira, whom he attacked. For this insolent act, he is to be taken into custody by Lord Tamura Ukyo, and at his residence, Lord Asano is sentenced to commit seppuku, disembowelment. As soon as the men from Tamura's mansion arrive to fetch him, Lord Asano is to be placed within a criminal's wicker palanquin and escorted away as inconspicuously as possible. One moment, please. Though they have reported the order, there is still one point on which they, the superintending officers, are not in agreement. Okado begs that they postpone their answer to the senior minister for just a while. Of the 4 of them, there is one who has an objection. He, Okado Denpachiro, begs to express his opinion. He has listened to the judgment, but with regard to Lord Asano being taken into custody at Lord Tamura's mansion, speaking for himself, he finds it hard to accept. From the start, all who were on duty would agree that Lord Asano's behavior while the examination was being conducted was meek and cooperative. Asano is a daimyo lord with a stipend of 50,000 bushels. His head family is the greatest in the Chugoku area. And yet, without so much as a trial, he is taken into custody and immediately ordered to commit seppuku. He feels perhaps the senior minister has been too hasty in his judgment. It is a fundamental law that both sides in any argument be punished equally. They should at least wait until they have verified whether Lord Kira is alive or dead to pass the death sentence on Lord Asano. Though he, Denpachiro, is only of minor rank, he has the honor of participating in this inquiry as superintending official. He must prevent at all costs any error on the part of the government authorities. Here before them, he begs that they reconsider the judgment. What's that? An error on the part of the government? Is he saying they have conducted this in an offhand manner? Just now, as they spoke, he heard them praise Lord Kira for his conduct today. And yet, ignoring the fact that Lord Asano is from a great house and in receipt of 50,000 bushels, he is judged to have forgotten his place and to have attacked. But even if Asano was crazed at the time, surely Kira was not entirely without blame. Samurai should behave like warriors. He begs they make their judgment with the samurai code in mind. Even commoners know it is an offense to draw one's sword by so much as 4 inches within the shogun's castle, punishable by death and the forfeiture of one's domains. The order of seppuku for Asano was made according to law. Lord Kira, on the other hand, is to be praised for his conduct. Though under violent attack, he was still fully conscious of this offense, and so did not oppose Asano, instead letting him have his way. He did not reach for his sword. Respecting His Excellency the Shogun, Lord Kira's actions were commendable. As time passes, it will be known. What trifling words these are. What is he saying? He who is a samurai should be born with a warrior's spirit. A warrior's spirit? Whether he would live or die, a samurai relies on his sword as his last defense. When a samurai is confronted by a violent enemy, the first thing his hand should move to is the hilt of his sword. Whether he draws the sword or not is of secondary concern. Facing the enemy, he thinks first of his weapon. That is the warrior's spirit. But in the case of Lord Kira, he did not think of his sword. Instead, it was his family, his stipend, his life. First, he weighed up the profit or loss to be gained and lost sight completely of a warrior's true nature. The councillors have decided that today's turmoil was due to Lord Asano going mad and attacking Lord Kira. But as one of the investigators, he, Okado Denpachiro, cannot so easily agree with them. Whether an argument or a one-sided attack, he believes that they should examine the case once more. They must thank Okado for his trouble in speaking out, and, while his words are not without some justification, the matter has already reached Lord Yanagisawa Mino no Kami's ears. A decision has been made, and it is too late to change it now. Let them just say that the two of them have listened to Okado's objections and leave it at that. If it is Lord Yanagisawa's decision alone, then he has all the more reason to speak out. He does not mean to scrutinize too closely, but he is aware that Lord Yanagisawa is distantly related to Lord Kira by marriage. If a biased sentence were to be passed, then it would greatly embarrass those lords who are not directly related to the Tokugawa house. As investigator, he begs Lord Yanagisawa to reconsider his verdict. What is he saying? How can one of his position dare to speak so recklessly against the government? It is precisely because the government is being dealt with so recklessly that he must speak out. If the matter has already been reported to His Excellency the Shogun, then naturally it may be too late to alter the decision. But while it is still in the hands of Lord Yanagisawa alone, then they may change any number of times before deciding upon the correct path. Has he gone quite mad? Even if the matter has not been reported to the Shogun, a mere inspector like him cannot stand in the way of a Minister of State's judgment. If he persists in these complaints, he will be punished. But he must persist. It is his loyalty to the great laws of this land that compels him to speak. He begs that they convey his objections to Lord Yanagisawa. Certainly not. The rights and wrongs of government are not for the likes of him to deliberate. But he insists, convey his message. The next scene is set in Lord Tamura's mansion. Asano has already been brought here, and other officials, including Okado Denpachiro, have followed after to verify that all is correctly done. It is a little before 6 p.m. There was much anger at Lord Asano's actions from above. Therefore it was unavoidable that he receive his sentence on the very same day. Lord Tamura agrees. He is played by Kataoka Gato. And what of Asano's evening meal? All has been recorded. He was served a full meal of several dishes. When he saw this set before him, Lord Asano smiled to himself and asked if there was to be no sake to go with it. He asked for sake. They explained that as he was in custody, no alcohol was to be offered. Hearing this, he asked about tobacco, but that too was to be denied. Then he said, "My, how strict they are," and burst out laughing. Then cheerfully he ate 2 bowls of rice gruel. Then he did not weep? Not at all. Throughout the meal he behaved with great composure. Okado Denpachiro is led in. He has been inspecting the place where Lord Asano will take his life. What are his findings? There is only one thing to which he cannot consent. Does Lord Tamura believe that the blood from a dying warrior will defile his house? Whatever may be said, Asano was the lord of a castle. yet the woven mats prepared for his seppuku are placed in the garden, as though he were no more than a nameless soldier of no rank. It was done according to his instructions. Okado is not to interfere. His instructions were they? That is most strange. Despite the inspector's words, the place of seppuku is established according to a plan already submitted in private to the chief minister. If he accuses him of improper arrangements now, it would be most troublesome for him. Okado has seen that a wooden platform has been built in the garden with sliding doors against the rain as a makeshift roof. Curtains are drawn around and a carpet placed on the floor so that it looks like a little house. But the garden is still the garden. It cannot be seen as inside a house. The etiquette for a warrior's seppuku demands that a distinction be made between the garden and the indoors based upon the status of the man. In order to uphold his honor, a warrior would far rather commit seppuku within a crumbling house than on a garden platform, no matter how newly built and decorated. Asano is a lord of high status with a stipend of 53,000 bushels of rice. It was he who commanded them to set up the place of seppuku. Okado's interference is unwelcome. He comes to report. Just now, a retainer of Lord Asano named Kataoka Gengoemon arrived. Hearing of today's events, he requests a final brief meeting with his lord. He would meet with Lord Asano? Does he come by arrangement with Lord Tamura's house? That is not the case. Members of this household repeatedly told him to go, but he would not listen. He insisted that his request be presented before the officials. Saying that, his aspect changed, and he continued to stand there as though lost in thought. Can't they even manage this trifling matter on their own? That will be quite all right, except he must follow certain procedures. After Lord Asano has presented himself before the officials and formally listened to the sentence, only then may the said retainer look upon his lord from one side of the garden. The inspector gives his permission. Tell the man to prepare. He's to be sure, however, not to bring any weapon and not to speak. The appointed time has come. They must all make their preparations. It is a short time later, still in the same room of Lord Tamura's mansion. one of Tamura's men leads Lord Asano's retainer, Kataoka Gengoemon, into the garden. He comes barefoot and without his sword. Looking at Okado, Lord Tamura thanks the officials for allowing Asano's retainer, Kataoka Gengoemon, to be present. He speaks on behalf of the retainer, who says that their act of kindness will not be forgotten. He can well imagine what Asano's retainers are feeling. Now barefoot and dressed in the pale colors of death, Lord Asano Takumi no Kami comes prepared to commit seppuku. According to custom, the sentence will formally be read out. On this day, he committed the crime of drawing his sword within the shogun's castle. Paying no heed to where he was and bearing a personal enmity, he did attack Lord Kira Kozuke-no-suke. For this insolent act, he is ordered to take his own life by seppuku disembowelment. He understands the sentence. He is deeply grateful that he has been permitted a warrior's honorable death by seppuku and would like to express his heartfelt thanks. As for every one of the inspecting officials, he thanks them for the great pains they have taken in exercising their duties. If there is anything he would like to say, he is to speak before them now. That is most kind. He does not mean to delay the proceedings, but there is something he would like to ask. How is Kira's state of health? After treatment by 2 separate physicians, he was escorted away from the castle. Perhaps there is one among them who witnessed it, but earlier, when he attacked, he is sure he wounded Kira in 2 different places. That is correct. A cut on his upper shoulder and one on his brow. He witnessed this himself. What of the first cut? The wound was slight. And the second? That wound, too, was slight. Such a lack of skill. It puts him to shame. The wounds may well have been slight, but Lord Kira is an old man. Moreover, the cut to his forehead was in a vulnerable spot, and they cannot be sure he will recover well. Indeed, and Kira was exhausted after the shock of the attack. There was certainly a great loss of blood, and so his recuperation is in doubt. Is that so? Hearing it at least makes him feel better. He would like to express gratitude to Lord Tamura for his kind arrangements. If he would like to leave a final poem. But before that, now that they have delivered the sentence, perhaps Lord Asano would like to relax before the preparations are complete. There is a lovely moon tonight. A brilliant moon. Won't he take a look? Tomorrow it will be full. A beautiful moon. There's one more thing he would like recorded. Please write it. He wanted to tell his men before, but there was no time.
いとまなく定めて
When they all hear of today's events, they will doubtless suspect that something is not right. Someday soon, when his retainers Kataoka Gengoemon, Isogai Jurozaemon, and others appear at this mansion, he begs that the last words of Asano Takumi no Kami be conveyed to them. It is but a clumsy verse he has improvised. Beckoned by the wind, flowers scatter from the trees, yet even more than they, how sorry I am to bid farewell to the passing spring. If all is ready, they may lead him to the place. Beckoned by the wind, flowers scatter from the trees, yet even more than they, how sorry I am to bid farewell to the passing spring. This translation for Edojo no Minjo was written and narrated by Paul Griffith.